Welcome everyone. I really hope that everyone is now online and watching and listening to us. I will speak a little more, so you have time to just tune in and just turn it up the volume, because we are looking forward to a wonderful conversation here, and it's about esport trends in the US and in Central Europe. My name is Andrea Joos, and I am one of the Brain Bar hosts, and I am very happy to be here. And actually, honestly, the first time I heard about esports was like approximately 1 year ago. But then soon enough, I had to realize that actually it has already became mainstream without me even noticing it. And the trend of the consecutive annual growth for the global esports industry is already happening. And players are already celebrities, and you can see that these tournaments, they fill stadiums with devoted fans, so it's really happening, and sponsors are putting more and more money into the esports ecosystem. So let's take a closer look to this phenomenon, and with my two amazing guests, Adam Deutsch, Managing Director of Deloitte US. Hello, I'm sorry, Deloitte Digital.
Hello.
Welcome.
Awesome to be here.
And Adam Salai, Vice President of the Hungarian Gaming and Esport Federation. Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. It's an honor.
Okay, so how about starting with the basics? What is this esport, and how would you explain it to, for example, to your grandmom or my grandmom?
I'll take a pass at Adam. You can. By the way, I guess you have to be named Adam to be on the panel, which is an awesome distinction. I mean, in a couple of words, it's competitive gaming, right? That's the real essence of it all. It's competing for prizes and money and trophies and notoriety with the biggest video game titles in the world. That's the super brief definition of esports.
Yeah, that's super brief. Adam, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would say in this region where I'm living in, as it's electronic sports, because they don't know what is esports meaning. So we always have to explain what does it in a shorter way. So what is the name of it? And yeah, it's completely competitive gaming. Players and teams competing next to each other in a rule set where everybody is equal, and the better, more time, better is wins.
Mm-hmm. I would like to remind the audience that we are really looking forward to receiving questions from you. If it's really, the whole thing is about you as well. So you can just add to our conversation, send us questions, just debate us, or ask anything from our panelists. And I'm gonna just read the best questions. I have a sidebar here, which is showing me if you have sent any comments. So please do send us comments. There is somewhere is a comment region. I'm sure you can find it, and send us questions. So let's dive in more deeply. Can you give me numbers, size, revenue, I mean, size of audience, percentage of growth, etc.? How is it going now in the past years?
Yeah, I'll start. So some of these numbers may be a little bit dated, but the estimates have the esports global audience, and that's the important term, global, because by virtue of being digital, it's a borderless sport. You can be in any location around the world and participate. So most recent numbers have it around 450 million people that participate in some way. Most of that, of course, is watching. Obviously, people do play, or they watch people, for strategies on how to play. But about 450 million people. So there's a lot of scale. And then, for key events for around, major titles like League of Legends and Overwatch and Call of Duty, those singular events can draw tens of millions of people for their prime events.
Adam, how are the numbers in our region?
Well, I would say in this region is I have to split it two new words. It's esport players who are playing in esports level and playing esports games, and yeah, we have to just say it, to focus on the gamers. What is the fan base? The fan base is more than 60 million in this region. If we theoretically have a borderline from Poland, and we just checking to the east. In Hungary, we have a 10 million population. The gamer base is more than 2 million. And the registered players who are playing some kind of esports games are less than 500,000. but we are really back comparing to the United States or the Western countries, because esports is here for more than 20 years, but esports players who are playing for money as their job is just rised up in the past year. So, but we are here, and it's arrived finally. We can say that. But definitely, we would like to catch up and then follow the trends and everything what is in Europe, Western, or for example in the United States.
And what do you think? What are the reasons behind this popularity?
Well, I think there's several. One, certainly in this time that we're living in with the coronavirus and everything, people are home more frequently. I think we've seen a whole bunch of spikes in the trends in terms of people being home and participating. Video games are already beloved, right? For all sorts of the Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z demographic. They're already beloved titles, so there's already built-in demand around those titles. And then I think if you factor in all the social platforms, from Twitch to YouTube to Facebook, people can share. People want to see the best gamers do things that they can't do themselves, or learn strategies on how to play. And when you get some of these teams and the stars on these teams, I mean, they're the athletes for these teams that are doing things most people can't do. It's very, very appealing.
Adam,
any comment on that?
It's easy to catch. So it's eye-catchy, it's fancy. We have a digital world. Everybody is using their phones, their laptops, their PCs at home to see content what they would like to see. And I just can join to Adam, because the Gen Z is already living in a digital world. They almost have phones less than 10 years old, and they are just using it. And gaming is easy to, well, I don't want to say it's addiction, but it's easy to do more than an hour or more hours a day. And this is the reason what is so cool, because it's nice, catchy. Yeah, I'm also a nerd, so I also play games. I'm more than 30 years old, but I'm still playing. I love it.
Hey, I have gray hair and I play, so I'm more than 30 years old too.
I'm a woman and I do play. So okay, that's the team. We are all nerds here.
Proud nerd.
Yeah, proud nerds. So you, Adam, already mentioned that COVID, in a way, had an effect on the ecosystem. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so we've seen some numbers, preliminary or early numbers, just in terms of the spike in usage. The platforms that I mentioned before that publish their numbers on ComScore and things like that have all seen increased hours, time spent, total uniques, all those metrics that you follow from a digital standpoint. All of those are going up on all of those platforms. And we've even seen a spike in a survey that we do here at Deloitte in terms of people willing to pay for premium access to different services, either on console games or on PC games. But people are even paying to get that premium access, where just to be able to enhance their gameplay and to be able to enhance their ability to access and watch and participate.
I would like to emphasize for the audience that we are looking forward to receive some questions from you too. So don't hesitate to ask if you have any burning question. So just type, and if it's a good question, then we're gonna ask it. So Adam, do we have those numbers here as well in what you see now in the region?
Well, I can just report. I saw Deloitte's research, what is pretty good. Check if anybody can download it and check it out, because it's awesome. In Hungary, the pandemic, it's hard to say, but it's a little bit supported the esports and gaming industry, because everybody had to stay at home. Well, actually, I'm representing the Hungarian Gaming and Esports Federation. We also created a cup for these guys who stuck at home for the weekends, and I would say we have reached more than 500,000 people in a weekend, per weekend, but when we run the cup. And yeah, the numbers are definitely rised up during the pandemic. And since the pandemic is a little bit consolidated, we also have the numbers at the same level. Sometimes it's top, sometimes it's flop. But unfortunately, as the recognition see, we will have COVID wave 2. So we are also have the plans that how we could somehow support the Homestuck people.
Okay, so let me ask the million-dollar question. Are these really can be, I mean, esport can be considered as a true sporting competition? Like, I mean, who decides and how does this thing look like?
Adam, do you want to go first or you want me to try it?
Well, I start, but probably you can reflect on it. So in Hungary, but also in Europe, there is two kind of countries. We have sports law here in Hungary, and for example, France also have sports law. Do you have to follow if you would like to be the sole governing body in any country in esports, and we are following the sports law. In Poland also they have something like similar like we do. So we created a sports federation. It's really important because we're aiming to become the sole governing body through regulation different games exclusively in Hungary. And we would like to create leagues, cups, anything what is following what is the law. Right now, sports is not considered, esports is not a considered sports in Hungary, but as soon as possible, it will become to have this title. If I'm right, Adam, it's in the United States, is it recognized as a sport? Because there is already some education sponsorship for the universities. University scholarship also already have some esports rights. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's definitely accurate, and the sponsorship dollars flow, and like traditional sports, they're selling media rights to major television networks and and different platforms for big money to accrue an audience to watch the competition. So I kind of think it goes back to where we started a little bit. Like it starts with it's competitive, right? And people like competition. People that are passionate about the space would absolutely say that it's a sport because the best athletes that do this work that play at this level can do things other people can't do, right? And when I think about athletic competition, whether I'm a football star or a golfer or whatever, it's because I can do things other people can't do. So you add the mix of competition with skill, for me that's a sport. But I suppose anyone could really debate it, but for me, it's a sport.
And if the Olympic Committee will say it sometime in the future, near or far, it will be a sport. Until then, the ISFS, am I right? If it's considered as a sport, there will be a sport. And there is one big federation, a global federation. I mean, it's International Esports Federation, and they are keen on to recognize esports as a sport, as the part of the ISF. So it will be sooner or later. I think it will happen. It's no doubt of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, can you tell me a bit more about the platform and the true nature of a competition, of these competitions? You already told me that it is competitive, but let us see how this works, and then let's move on to the companies and all the funding then.
Right. So the major game studios and the big titles in the space put on events and playoffs and competitions where all of the teams that compete in them, we can go through the list of names, or Adam can talk about them in a second, but the platform is, it's all digital, right? And it's available to stream, and it's available to stream on all of the different, we've talked about Twitch, we've talked about YouTube and Facebook. Some IP or some of the titles are bought exclusively from a media rights standpoint to air globally on different networks, or again different digital platforms. And then a lot of these studios have their own platforms as well that allow for streaming and access to the different events. But like any traditional sport, they have announcers, they have stats, they have teams, they have the ways to measure win-loss records, all that different kinds, all the different metrics that you'd associate with a sport.
In a matter of fact, imagine that there is a game called, for example, Fortnite or PUBG. What is the unknown battleground? It's battle royale games. And imagine that you have a stadium full with people, and this game you are seeing and watching more than 100 people play together for the same goal to win the match. And you can switch the point of view in any players or who are competing to each other on the same server. It's like you have more than 100 cameras in a stadium for example, in a football match or for a basketball match or in any traditional sports match, and it's too much to make it able to see it in physical. So the digital world allows to esports to make it more attractive, more spread it and more split it, because you can see your favorite one or you can see the whole thing at the same time together. So yeah, this is what is make it's unique for me.
And we have our first audience question. So let me just read that. Do you think that the current state of game development will slow the growth of certain esports? A lot of games going free to play just allows people to move from game to game. That's a question from Matt Beam. Thank you very much for your question.
So the question is, do we think it will slow the pace of new game titles? Just so I understand the question.
Yeah, well, the state of game development will slow the growth, of certain esports.
Development, possibly, but my instinct is that it won't. I think the demand is there, and I think from a gaming standpoint, it's much like movies. It's a hits business, and there's so many creative people in the industry, and there's the capability, the processing speed, cloud capabilities are all enabling these studios and these publishers to do next level types of gaming. So I don't think there's any short of creativity, and because you need those next hits as a source of revenue and to keep people interested, I think there's just a bit of a machine that keeps churning out these, the next titles or the next kind of generation of games. It might slow a little bit. I mean, there's always ebbs and flows to the pace of these things. They kind of spike and then they fall. But in general, I think the pace will continue to be pretty accelerated.
Mm-hmm. Adam, would you like to add something to that?
No, I just joined to Adam because he was absolutely right.
Okay, thank you. While we are looking forward to receive some more questions from the audience, let's go on with which we already have in the title. So, like, it's obviously attractive. I mean, for both the media companies and game publishers too. So, what are the challenges there?
Maybe I should start. Just so in Hungary, the traditional sports are followed and watched on linear TV programs, but the esports competitions or just simple influencer streaming are followed in digital way. The TV channels and media shareholders wanted in the past and still wanting to put this content on TV, but it's not really working. In a way it's working, but it's not really working, so it's really hard. And I think we are sharing it with the United States, or it doesn't matter which country, so it's a more digital content. And
can I just ask one, why do you think it's not working that way?
Because we tried it. We have tried.
Well, I have a hypothesis about it here in the US that may not apply everywhere, but most of the people consume linear television through cable or satellite or telcos. And when you're paying a subscription for what they call an MVPD service, it means that you obviously have an income and you're paying to get access to different linear networks content, right? I think in the esports and video game space, people and fans are so accustomed to being able to access that without authentication, without paying to authenticate and having some sort of membership or account. It's just available to you. And where most of the economics comes in on that side are people paying to engage with the content versus get access to the content, right? And I think that's, at least here in the US, that's a big reason why. When you buy those media rights and you're trying to get the exclusivity of the content to your platform, if people don't pay for cable television, as an example, and they can't get unlock or authenticate that capability, they'll probably go find some other way, borrow somebody's password, or do whatever they can to gain access to it, because that's just how the space has evolved. They're accustomed to watching for free.
Mm-hmm. So that's one of the challenges, but I think I caught your chain of thought, Adam. So please go on.
I'm just I would like to add some more obstacles what we are facing within, and not just in Hungary, but the region, I guess, because if you have internet, you can just free to access to these platforms because they are free. Free Twitch, free YouTube, free Facebook. You just have to find the link, and you don't have to. What Adam said? It's you have, if you are paying for cable, for example, sports content, as I do because I'm a big NFL fan. Actually, I'm paying for Game Pass because I'm curious how it look like, and I love to watch it. But normally, if I'm just curious, one CS:GO match or League of Legends match or any kind of esports competition, I just hit the matching link, and I just able to see it and watch it to my big screen. So I don't have to use my phone because all the devices are able to share the screen, and I can just enjoy it in my big screen too. So it's the obstacle what we are facing with is the Twitch and the YouTube and Facebook platforms are free, and you're just not able to get some money in it or ask some money for it.
Mm-hmm. What other challenges are there, Adam, that you would like to add before we move on to the next audience questions, because we do have?
Yeah, there are a handful, but I guess what I'd focus on is just the overall economic health of the universe of esports. You know, when we compare it to traditional sports, and we've talked about this a bit already, media rights are the #1 economic driver of traditional sports, whether it be Champions League, Premier League, the NFL, right? Like that is the #1 way that you drive revenue. There's not really a similar governing body for esports that can try to consolidate and maximize those media rights. And plus, we just talked about the access piece, right? So to the extent esports wants to mature into a traditional sports business model, that's one potential gap. And I think probably the other is that the competition for talent and the best teams means that esports owners have to pay quite a bit for the top talents to build out their teams. But the money in terms of prize money and sponsorship doesn't equate to, in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases, doesn't equate to the expense of operating a high performing team. And so I think there's some imbalance there with what it costs to be great in the space and how you can monetize your greatness, if that makes sense. I think it will come, but it's going to require some stamina and people comfortable being a little upside down on their P&Ls for a little while.
Thank you. Let's go on with the next comment and question. It's a long one, so listen, listen carefully. What do you think about the future of AR, VR games in esports, especially game championships using VR headsets and haptic feedback devices like gloves, suits, etc., to have a really immersive experience, and then you are really a part of the game world in a Ready Player One style? So,
Adam, I'm going to let you start with that one.
Yeah, I will start. So I love Ready Player One, actually. I think I definitely watch it if this happens. But it's really in the beginnings. Because AR and the VR technology, it's a 90% it's wired. And if you would like to see people who are just run over, jumping, crawling with the VR headset without any wires, as it's wireless, there is a technique already what is working, but it's really hard. And please Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. There was some trying in the past that ESL probably tried it to do some VR championship with a similar game like the End Game with Harrison Ford, but it was not really successful. I don't know why. I saw it, but the people who are missing that esports is not sports because they don't have movements and they are just sitting in a chair and playing with their hands. Probably this kind of championship and cups could be a good answer for them, because if somebody just crawling, jumping and walking and sprinting with a VR headset on their head, probably this could be an answer to that. They have condition, they have agility, and they have the physical ability to do it. Yeah, I don't think it's happened soon, but there are some tries in the past and good examples.
Adam, yeah. Any comments on that?
I think he's spot on. I mean, just putting on my futurist hat a little bit. I mean, I think it's where the world wants to go, right? So it's nascent today, But just think about 7 or 8 years ago and the changes that we've had over the last 7 or 8 years in the space. There weren't all these competitions and teams and leagues that we even have now. So the people want it to happen. The technology will enable it to happen. And I think it's just a question of when, not if, in my mind.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let's take a look of the teams and the leagues. How does the development look like for them? Like what it takes to become a professional player?
Adam,
Yeah.
go on. I'm so handicapped.
It's okay. I mean, what we see and what I've seen in this space is that it is akin to a traditional sports team. I mean, people get recruited, people get scouted. A lot of that scouting takes place on the platforms that we've talked about. People want, or team owners and team coaches want players, obviously with talent for the game, but also with personality. We can't overlook the importance of personality and just pizzazz. So they get scouted, they build teams, they get trained. In some cases, they house them. They get contracts and salaries. And they have trainers, medical, all of those kinds of things because they're trying to build a unified team. When you need 5, 6, 7 players for a particular esports title, that team needs to be coordinated and unified. They run plays and they deploy strategies when collectively that they need to train for and they need to unify. So I think there's a lot of similarity in that space to pro sports, and more and more athletes I think will emerge in this space over time.
And how does gathering data, has to do something with the team management and how they put them together? So how about the data?
Adam, do you want to field that one, or do you want me to try?
I will join later because we are really, really handicapped comparing to you.
Okay. I don't want to monopolize the mic. I mean, the great thing about esports is, these are computerized games, and it's all ones and zeros. And so you can put lots of software and overlays and things into these games to be able to get stats on how a player is performing, accuracy of how, like in a first-person shooter, accuracy of how often they hit their target, as an example. You can measure those kinds of things and show where people have gaps, so you can better train them to close those gaps, show where people excel, so you can lean into what they're great at. And then again, like I was talking before about some of the strategies these teams employ, you can see how you can train against them and see the data and see how effective your strategies are or not.
We have our next audience question, and it's, as eSport matures, do you expect that the main sponsoring brands will correlate with the main sport sponsoring brands? That's an interesting question, a great question.
I do, and here's why. When we think about advertising and sponsorship, what brands want is, one, scale. Esports has scale. Tens of millions of people play it, as we said before. 2, they want to make sure they're getting a demographic that's going to align with what they're marketing and advertising. Esports has a tremendously hard to reach demographic in terms of younger, affluent audiences. And I think being endemic to the space engenders a lot of loyalty out of people that are fans of esports. So you get passion, you get brand loyalty. So and there's no shortage of deals being made. Every time I pop onto like an industry website about the news of esports, it seems like literally every day there is a new deal, new sponsorship. So I think it's poised to just keep growing.
Adam?
Yeah, I'm just joining to Adam. The brands would like to reach and engage the future consumers, potential future consumers for itself, and it means they can't avoid the numbers what they are seeing. For example, the Deloitte research too, because if you see, for example, in Hungary, it's the one quarter, so it's 25% of the cake. And it's the age is between 16 and 40. What is the potential users for any brand? So if they are earlier than the other brands, they will win. So yeah, I think it's no doubt that they have to communicate with all the people around, and they just can't say that, okay, it's gaming and esports, it's not really good. No, it's where is the people are living at their life. So they have to watch them and focus them and use them, of course.
Mm-hmm. Can you make some predictions? Like, how will it look like in, say, 10 years?
Oh boy, Adam, you take that one. You get to go first.
Everybody's playing on the bird. I would say. It's more than 2 billion, right? So this is right, the numbers. I think when I was started playing 20 years ago, I just able to play on PC. The Z generation right after us, it's they are playing tablets, they are playing on their phones, they are playing on everything what is probably can run an operation system, I can say. And I think most of the people in any country all around the world, the numbers will be rise up, not reach the half, so the 50% of half the population, but it will around 40%, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that, and we've touched on this a bit, but things like 5G, Wi-Fi 6, cloud computing, previously we talked about the creativity and appetite of game studios and game designers to leverage those technologies. We've talked about AR, VR, haptics, all those kinds of things. You just see all this technology just going to converge and make gaming that much more compelling, fun, interesting, and continue to grow. And I think probably stretch beyond even what you'd call the core demographic today. I think it's going to be more accessible. If you have that kind of just with 5G, for example, if you have that kind of bandwidth in your commute on a train somewhere, that means you can play the most high fidelity game that there is in your pocket, right? Like on your phone. There'll be no barriers to playing the most sophisticated games. So I think it will definitely grow in that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We tackled this in part. I mean, with there's one more question, so we will go on with that one, and then move on to my question if we still have time. So 1 week ago, Guild Esports, minority owned by David Beckham, announced that they would like to raise 20 million and list the shares on London Stock Exchange. Ambition is to become top 10 franchise within 3 years. Wow, whoever wrote this, he knows the deal, or she. How do you see an esport company as an investment? How many of them are listed on stock exchanges around the world? Thank you for the question. It was almost what I wanted to ask about the stock market and how will we go on. So let's take a look at that.
Well, if I would be David Beckham, I definitely did the same because brands are attracting sponsors, and David Beckham is a brand, but is attracting the brands who would like to collaborate with. I didn't answer your questions before. That what are the teams and the players here? Just a small recap. In Hungary, for example, there are no such a team in several games. For example, I can say only one team in Counter-Strike. That I cannot say anything for League of Legends, and these are the two most top-rated games globally, and that's a problem. It's an obstacle because we have lack of sponsors. So this is why probably David Beckham and Hulit and Antoine Griezmann, for example, who created, for example, Gareth Bale is created to an esports team. If you have the sponsorship and the connections and you have the support of your community by the country you're living at, it's a little bit more than easier. For example, in the United States, there are cities just like the franchise, other sports traditions like NFL, NBA, NHL, cities who are owning esports teams. It's unbelievable, for example, in Hungary but in the region too. So stock exchange, yeah, it's really hard question. I'm just can't wait to have blockchain in the system too, and they can just use two new things at the same time, and then in the new level sports, what is esports?
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I think it gets back to just the economics, right? Of trying to make sure that these teams and leagues can be profitable. So it's a big bet. And sometimes big bets pay off, and sometimes they struggle. So, but I get it. It's really about having healthier economics and the capital to invest in your team.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If we take a closer look about, of the ecosystem, what are the organizations? We already talked about it also a little bit, that are adjacent. That's my favorite English word. Adjacent to the esports market. How do we say that?
Adjacent.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. So,
Okay.
how does that ecosystem look like? So, give us a clue.
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about it a bit already, right? Like we've talked about the different platforms people stream on and how fans get connected. We've talked about, well, we haven't actually talked about all the hardware. We can, right? There's going to be new consoles coming out from the major platforms here soon. Obviously, gaming PCs are wildly popular, and people love to build them and create them custom. If you go on some social media platforms, you'll see celebrities building their own custom hardware and PCs and getting an amazing following while they do it. So there's hardware, and I'm sure at some point they'll, or if not already, there's apparel. There's, in a non-COVID world, there's ticket sales and event management and all the other things that go along with holding premium events, as an example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Adam, any comments on that?
No comments for this one. This is the model. So if you are following this model, this is the right way to make it grow.
And is it possible here in Central Europe to make that happen? Do you see that?
For example, in Hungary, we just received a really good news in the 1st of September, because the Hungarian National Lottery, which is the gambling company in Hungary, started to make esports bets for the Hungarian people, which means that a huge company, what is the best way to use for the youngest community, started to supporting this activity, which means that all the other brands probably will join for them, and that means that something starting to building up. But it is a slow start, but it's a very important start. So probably in the next 2 years, it's the next 2 years. It's really curious what will happen, because I guess there is more sponsorship and money will come in the market. For example, a solo player or for a team, and this could make it happen. Our federation is aiming to provide a clear and straightforward legal structure for them, and these parts probably make a whole, and this will make a start for the industry.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so thank you for clearing that up, and now we see the whole system. Okay, let's go for the next question, which is now, will more cities leverage esports as a tourist attraction? How would they do it?
I think the answer is yes. You have seen some cities and municipalities here in the States actually working with local governments to build dedicated esports arenas. Some colleges here in the United States have done that. Dedicated venues for esports events where it's not just chairs around a central stage or something like that. There's audio in the seats, or the seats might lean back in a different way so that you can see a big screen, or there might be kind of social areas where people can interact. We talked about 5G, like where the stadiums are enabled with high-speed bandwidth, so people can in real time put comments against gameplay. So I see that, we've talked about the scale and popularity of these things. If people are putting tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in the ground to build these kinds of venues, I definitely see municipalities and cities wanting to leverage esports again in a world where COVID is behind us, and people return.
Obviously,
yeah,
obviously. Yeah. Okay. What are the craziest trends that you see now happening? We are just almost at the end of our conversation. So if anyone else has some more questions inside, then don't hesitate to type it so we can ask. So what are things that surprised even you?
Adam, I think you should start.
Yeah. For us, because I was working in the media, I work with traditional sports like football and other big sports. For example, the Premier League, the La Liga, and all the top leagues have a calendar. What is the same in the past decades. In esports, it's so hectic. It could happen that in a year there are 2 world championships. For example, in Counter-Strike, there are 2 majors. The pandemic in this year is caused a little trick, but in the past it happened. So you have 2 world championships, but you don't know which month will be happen, where it will be held, and who will be organized it. Yeah, that's
Just
the
a few
problem.
questions. I mean, not important questions.
Premier League, it's IMG holding the rights. They are selling it. Everybody knows when it's happened and who you have to connect with to have the rights. Maybe in esports, I work with Counter-Strike a lot, and Counter-Strike majors organizers are published less than 3 months before the event. So you have to make a connection with them, and then you have to start to bid that you have the rights. Then you have to, at the same time, you have to, if you have the rights, you have to make the sales team able to sell it on the market. You have to find the prizes. You have to find the brands who would like to advertise during this content. So that was the biggest shock for me in esports, that it's not so well organized comparing to the traditional sports.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great one. I'm not sure if I have a better thought or a comparable thought, to be fair, but I guess if something shocks me sometimes, it's the sponsors that enter the space that pay big money to get into the esports space. And specifically what I mean is, like, sometimes I don't see how the sponsor connects to the title or to the demographic. I'm like, something like, I won't name any specific brands, but like you might see like a luxury shoe brand. And I'm like, wow, that's an interesting use of your advertising dollars to find yourself in the esports space. So I'm not in those corporate offices, and I'm trying to understand their targeting strategy, of course. But sometimes those sponsorships do raise an eyebrow. I'm like, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Mm. Okay, we are now slowly closing, and we have maybe our final question. How do you see the role of the game, of the game developers, and that of state institutions? Well, that's an also nice topic to tackle. I mean, state institutions as well. So how do you see those?
And make a start, because I have to collect my thoughts on this.
Okay, we can.
I can't, not to be coy, I'm not sure I understand the question.
So the role of game developers and that of state institutions. I mean, you can pick yours. I mean, how do you see the role of the game developers, or either, the state institutions? We already tackled a little bit about the game developers topic.
Right.
But actually, that's interesting how the state institutions might go further into this esports and move money. I mean, how do you see that happening in the next few years as well?
State institutions like governments?
I guess so. I hope so.
Yeah, I guess so. They think about it.
Yeah. I mean, we talked a second ago about how municipalities are investing and approving dedicated stadium projects for esports. I have heard of projects where they want to create like esports museums or entertainment, interactive entertainment venues and things like that. So that's a possibility. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm understanding the question. When I think state, I think government.
Yeah, I think so.
Hopefully, like, it's a very brief question, so I would just cannot ask.
Yeah.
I cannot ask back, like, how do you mean that? I mean, yeah, but anyway, we can go on with the prediction. And I mean, how do you dream? How do you see the best scenario in the forthcoming years of esport? And let's paint a picture which is appealing and that you would really love to, go for.
Yeah. Well, like, again, kind of just tying everything up in a bow, hopefully, it's that the business model of this wildly popular space catches up to that level of popularity, because I want it to be a healthy ecosystem, and it's getting there. It is, in many ways, it is a healthy ecosystem, but there's parts of it a little bit, I think, out of balance, right? And because so we want it to thrive. We want that when it thrives, we want everyone to make sure that the economic support, ongoing investment, ongoing development, ongoing events, new titles, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's my hope. And I'm very optimistic it will get there. I just think there's too much when this many people want it to happen, you know, kind of where there's a will, there's a way.
So healthy ecosystem. How about you, Adam?
It's, I think in the region, in the country, in the continent, if IESF turned to be the global federation to esports, that could be the first big move to make this movement globally acknowledged, because there will be official competitions on a countrywide. There will be competitions to any games where you can provide the best teams, best players for an international world championship, and it will be recognized by the people. And I think in the region we are good. I mean, I was a little bit sad because when I joined this industry, but right now I see the light in the end of the tunnel, and I hope so in 2-3 years in the region, in the country, we could fight against the best teams and the best countries, and there will be hit the same level as Olympic sports and similar like that.
That's also a beautiful picture. So let's paint that together. I mean, that can be. Do you have any closing comments on it, or we can just say goodbye to our wonderful audience who sent our wonderful questions?
Nothing for me other than thank you. I think there's a tremendous opportunity to talk, and appreciate the audience, and appreciate all you guys putting this together. It's been really fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been an honor to be here. When I started to play and I saw my mom's eye, I didn't thought that I can be sit in esports webinars when I'm 33. So yeah, it's a true honor. It was a pleasure to be here with Brainbar and Deloitte. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes, and I would like to thank you as well for coming and having this wonderful discussion with me. And dear audience, please join us in our next day of Brainbar, and also just keep an eye on what's happening around Deloitte, because they have awesome programs, and that's why we are in partnerings. So let's meet tomorrow and on other platforms. Thank you very much for being here, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.